Now welcome to another Let's Talk Some Star Wars, where this time we'll be taking a look at and discussing the results of the poll that asked you what you thought of the 5th episode of The Acolyte. I'll then of course be reading and responding to some of the comments left on the poll, and so let's right away get to the results, where we'll see that 5% of voters thought this episode was excellent or really good, another 12% said it was pretty good or at least above average, 15% then said it was okay or maybe a bit below average, which then left 7% to say it was terrible, and a final 61% who either are not going to watch it or just haven't watched it yet. Which of course means that yes, the majority of people who participate in this poll and have been participating in it week in and week out, the majority are still not watching and seem to have no interest in ever watching the show. I'm going to assume that most of that 61% are not in the just haven't found the time to watch it yet category, but that they have no interest in ever watching it. Which, as I keep saying, yeah, that is kind of sad that over half the people, or 3/5 of the people who partake in a poll on a Star Wars channel have no interest in watching the latest piece of Star Wars content. However, when you remove that 61% from the equation and kind of recalculate here to just look at those who did watch the episode and to see what they thought about it, well, the numbers still aren't all that great for the show or for the episode, but they are certainly better than we have seen in previous weeks. There were more people who really enjoyed this one, or who at least didn't think this was all that bad or the worst thing ever. Again, more so than in previous weeks. This was easily the highest rated episode so far, and to begin to figure out why that was perhaps the case, let's get to some comments now. But not before once again just taking a quick moment to say thank you to everyone who votes, comments, or watches these or any of my videos on either of my channels. It is all greatly appreciated. Also a huge thank you to those who support what I do over on Patreon. Thank you so much for that. And now let's move on to the comments, starting as always with the highest rated comment from the poll, which this time came to us from Blobsnail, who said, "If nothing else, it was somewhat refreshing to see major characters killed off midway through a show without insane plot armor. At least they're not afraid to kill off their characters, unlike Filoni." And yeah, I will give them a little bit of credit for that. It was refreshing, I guess you could say, to see characters actually dying that have a name and that they don't just get stabbed and come back 5 minutes later. And I would have given them even more credit if they actually felt like main or kind of major characters in the show, if we'd truly been given a reason to care about them in the show. Instead, I feel like the main reason why we even think of them as main or kind of major characters in the first place is because we were told they were going to be main characters. We saw them in all the interviews and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, in this odd sort of way, Charlie Barnett's comments about Anakin blowing up the Death Star made a lot of people notice the character of Yord before the show ever even came out or started. Furthermore, or along the same kind of lines here, I think fans do quite a bit of work for these shows or for the characters on social media, again, even before the shows come out or while they are going on. They kind of build them up off what they think or want them to be in their own head and not off anything they may or may not have done in the actual show. Again, sometimes this even begins before the show starts. Sometimes it happens because of one scene in the show. For example, I fully believe that the reason why Yord took off his shirt in the first episode was to get people talking about that, to take notice of him. And then they go on social media and they kind of build him up to be something more than the show has made him out to be. And we even have things like the Yord Horde. Yes, that was a real thing on social media, or still is, where fans just kind of get together and name themselves something, where they kind of convince themselves they love the character without, again, the character actually having to do or become anything in the show itself. And yeah, sure, you do you. You can watch and enjoy Star Wars however you want to do that. You can love and cheer for or mourn the loss of whatever character you personally want for whatever reasons you want. But honestly here, I don't know that the show itself gave us all that many reasons to really care about Jecki or Yord. Maybe to some degree Jecki by default, or because she was Sol's Padawan, and he has been, I would say, the best character in the show, or the most developed or most interesting character, which is mainly because, for me at least, he's pretty much the only one that really feels like anything remotely like a Jedi. And I know in the end I'm going to have to find out or endure that he has done something bad and caused the whole mess, that the best character, the only Jedi-like character, has some sort of major fault and is responsible for everything that has happened. I just can't help but feel like part of the point of the show is, again, to make the Jedi look bad, to say or make a point about them not needing to exist, or that they kind of are responsible for the Sith coming about, or something stupid like that. But anyway, yes, it was nice to see them not afraid to kill off a character. It is nice to see lightsabers be kind of deadly when you get stabbed with them once or twice or 3 times. And if we'd had a little more from the characters who died here, a little more from Yord and Jeki, yeah, maybe their deaths would have had some more emotional impact and not just hit because of shock value or because you had convinced yourself on social media that they were the character you were going to root for, independent of anything in the actual show. Alright, and now onto this comment from Mr. McGee, who said, I notice a lot of people calling this the best so far, but I think that's just down to the visuals spectacle. The episode had a lot of issues, both character-wise and lore-wise. It's interesting how just having a visually engaging episode takes the mind away from the character, story, lore issues, because it has grains of enjoyment. It isn't until you really think about it that you realize how many issues it had. And yeah, for better or worse, right or wrong, however you may personally feel about it, but for some people, Star Wars is just the spectacle. That's the most important thing to them about it, that they have something to feast on visually, and whether or not it even makes sense is kind of irrelevant to them, or just not that important, maybe I should say. It's not the most important thing, that the story is airtight and makes sense and that all the characters are well developed. It is more important that when those lightsabers turn on, that it looks cool and that you enjoy it in the moment, and that is the most important thing to you. You don't care so much about the lore or the message or the themes or even about how well told the story is. You care about watching it again in the moment and thinking, wow, this is really cool. And as I was just saying before, you do you. You go ahead and enjoy Star Wars however the hell you want. I honestly don't have a problem if you just want to watch cool lightsaber fights and are engrossed in the mystery of the Acolyte, if you're finding this all very entertaining. Though, as I've said many, many times before, I do wish more fans would kind of hold Star Wars to a bit of a higher standard, or a much higher standard, so that Disney and Lucasfilm would know that fans won't just eat whatever slop they may throw on a plate and serve up to us, and then ask us to pay for it in the process. I wish the fans who just kind of want to praise everything would realize they're not really doing themselves or anyone else any favors. I get you love it, I get you want to love it, I get you don't want to criticize it, but you're really not doing yourself any favor by doing that. You're just allowing Disney and Lucasfilm to put anything out there, and you're going to take to social media and you're going to praise it no matter what. You're going to do all the work for them. That said, if you truly are loving everything about the Acolyte, if you're being honest with yourself and you really do enjoy it, that's on you. That's all fine and good. You, again, do you. You like what you want to like. If you want to say these are the best lightsaber fights you've ever seen in Star Wars, better than even Duel of the Fates, and again, take to social media to say as much and talk about how great this all is, then I am glad you are enjoying it. I truly am. I just, again, wish we could be a little more critical and a little more honest about how good or bad things actually are. And for some fans, even though, yeah, we love good lightsaber fights too, but we care a little more about other things than just the visual spectacle, like the integrity of the lore, not changing the core themes of the franchise for the sake of this one show, or we just want shows that are well made all around, well written, and that have good characters that make sense, or that we can understand a little better than the ones in this show. And if we're looking for something a little different out of Star Wars than what you are, something more than flashy lightsaber fights, and again, I'm not saying this to try to be demeaning or anything, you can enjoy it for that, but if we want something a little different, a little something more, and we complain that we don't get it, even though we have gotten it in the past, we have gotten great Star Wars before, it has lived up to lofty expectations in the past, and even in the Disney era, we have gotten some truly fantastic Star Wars, but if we're not loving it for different reasons than you're loving it, well then, that's up to us to decide. We're not trying to be toxic fans as we are so quickly labeled. We simply want Star Wars to be the best it can possibly be most of the time. But anyway, hopefully that makes some sense to people out there. And now let's move on to this comment from No Breaks, who said, "People give this show a lot of hate but fail to remember the Empire was defeated by teddy bears. Fun mention Killer Droid Army failed to kill Jar Jar Binks and his army. Oh, let's not forget a smuggler, farmer, and old man and a Wookiee managed to infiltrate a planet-destroying military base that was highly secretive. But hey, this show is bad because they changed Ki-Adi-Mundi's age. And in all reality, I don't think anyone is really mad that they changed Ki-Adi-Mundi's age. It's not the act itself that they're upset about, it's the reasoning behind the act. It's the fact that it now seems like he is going to learn about the return of the Sith, or he knows a thing or two about powerful dark side users in the shadows or something, which very much seems to contradict his line in The Phantom Menace. A line that, as I have tried to argue many times recently, is a very important line for the story itself, that it lets us know the mindset of the Jedi at that particular time. It lets us know why they are so complacent and why they are so unprepared for the return of the Sith. But now it's looking more and more like they're just idiots who missed the clear, obvious signs of the impending return of the Sith. Not to mention, you're really making a bad faith argument here, a straw man argument, really, because the Empire was not defeated by teddy bears. I don't know why people are always saying this. I don't know why people are so bugged by the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi, because I don't recall Palpatine going down to Endor and literally surrendering to Chief Chirpa at the end of Return of the Jedi. The Ewoks did not defeat the Empire, though I recall a legion of, Palpatine's best troops underestimating the natives. I recall George Lucas wanting to make a point about how those who fight for their homeland or against foreign invaders, even if technologically outmatched, they have more to fight for than the actual invaders do, and are going to fight more fiercely and probably put up a better fight and maybe even win. As for Jar Jar and the Gungans, well, I don't think you're remembering The Phantom Menace very well, because they do lose and are surrounded by and surrender to the droid army before Anakin blows up the control ship and they are liberated, essentially. I also recall Tarkin letting our heroes in A New Hope get away so that they could track them and find the rebel base. It was not all incompetency on the part of the Empire, it was them betting on them being able to go blow up the rebel base before the rebels could do anything with the plans. But anyway, let's move on to this comment from Jet Blast, who said, Kamir and Sol got parent trapped. And yeah, this one was really bad in my opinion. And I know some are going to say or try to defend it by saying that Sol had no reason to try and sense if it was really Osha or not, or that maybe he was so disoriented he couldn't get a clear reading or something like that. Though I would argue a Jedi is pretty much always kind of sensing the world around them, that it is literally like a sixth sense that is always active. You are just in tune to some degree with the living force around you, the same way you would hear and see and smell, even if you're not actively trying to do those things. They're still going to happen. Even if he's not sensing her for whatever reason, May has to then impersonate Osha. She has to impersonate someone she hasn't seen or known in 16 years. And identical twins or not, it's going to be next to impossible to fool somebody who has known Osha for actually longer than May has, and more recently than she has as well. And so the moment she starts to kind of slip up from Sol's perspective, the moment she starts to do things that are funny or just don't make any sense for Osha, or say things that Osha wouldn't say, he will, or so I would imagine as a Jedi, the first thing he will do is try to reach out and sense what might be bothering her. And, well, at that point, he should really realize it's May and not Osha. But I don't know. I don't know what they're going to try to pull off with this. Maybe he already realizes and is playing along with it for some reason, though I've argued why that also doesn't make sense. But I don't know. I'm going to wait to see how the show handles it before I kind of pass a final judgment on it. Alright, and let's do one final comment here, and this one comes to us from Joseph Hutton, who said, I don't know what any of the characters want. That's a problem. And yeah, I would say that is the biggest problem with the show. I don't know what the characters want, and most of the time what they do, the decisions they make, the actions they take, they don't really make any sense. Like I tried to bring up in my review, the entire episode, this entire 5th episode, the whole big battle, it only happens because of odd or dumb decisions by characters. It all begins with May, kind of out of the blue, after already having killed 2 Jedi, saying she doesn't want to kill Jedi anymore, and that Osha being alive changes everything suddenly. And she's now going to turn herself in, and the Jedi will be, I guess they're going to be lenient, because she knows something, I'm assuming, about the Sith. But you still murdered 2 Jedi. They're not going to just forgive and forget that. You're still going to prison for the rest of your life because you murdered 2 people. Not to mention you've probably done some other bad stuff along the way too. Anyway, she then goes and runs off to turn herself into Kelnaka, but Kamir gets there first, kills Kelnaka for reasons. Maybe this will be explained later. I don't know, maybe he has a reason to want the 4 Jedi dead, because I'm assuming he was there too, and maybe again he has his own personal reasons, and that is why he has kind of twisted May's mind and sent her down this path. And so anyway, let's assume he wanted Kelnaka dead and then went and did it. Well, why not, instead of just going and attacking the Jedi, why not wait for May to show up, since you know this is where she is going, and that she doesn't know you're free, and that she doesn't know you're the actual Sith or the dark side guy, whatever. But she doesn't know you're her master, so she goes there, she's going to be taken completely by surprise. You're going to kill her, and then you just hide her body or take it with you, and then when the Jedi show up, they think she did it and that she escaped, and they just keep looking for her instead of ever looking for you. I just don't get why Kamir attacks like 6 or 7 other Jedi when he didn't have to, and if he is worried about his identity being revealed and the return of the Sith being revealed, I guess. And sure, if he wanted Kelnaka dead from that night, it also means he wants Sol dead. But is that really the best time to do it when he has 5 or 6 other Jedi with him? Are we supposed to believe he is so powerful, that Kamir is so powerful, he can take on like 6 or 7 of them at a time? Or is he only making this decision because you want a cool episode with lightsaber battles? Not to mention, even if all the Jedi involved with this are killed, if Sol is also killed, however or wherever he gets killed because he did leave the planet, or we see him leaving the planet, are the Jedi not going to investigate this and see that a bunch of people, or a bunch of Jedi, have been killed by lightsabers? Isn't that going to be rather peculiar? Especially when you're on the lookout for someone who trained May in the ways of the dark side, and you're kind of worried it might be something a little dangerous or powerful, potentially. But oh yeah, that's right, we have Venestra Rowe on the case, who is just worried about the image of the Jedi Order and keeps things from the Council. She keeps things secret from them because she doesn't want them telling the Senate. Great justification there, really makes the Jedi look really wonderful. But anyway, we have seen in the trailers that she is going to show up on this planet, and my guess is she is going to find the crime scene, and somehow, some way, probably because of the orange dust or the orange spores, that is my working theory right now, but she is going to spin the whole thing a different way than what really happened in order to uphold the, I don't know, the image of the Jedi or something stupid. She's going to assume that Kelnaka, because of his exposure to these spores, he's been there a year now, that maybe he went crazy, and when the other Jedi showed up, he attacked and killed them, or something like that, or maybe some of the bugs took some of the Jedi away. I think we're going to find pieces of bugs dead laying around to imply that, yes, they had attacked the Jedi too. So she's just going to put it all together wrong. She's going to put it all together that Kelnaka killed them, or that the bugs killed some. She's even going to find Kelnaka's saber, or half of it, in the orange spores, and that is going to be the final piece of the puzzle for her, to put it all together wrong, so that the Jedi never suspect that the Sith have returned. But anyway, I think that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and let me know what you thought of this 5th episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you just enjoy the action? Is this making sense to you? Are you vested in the mystery? Whatever the case may be, leave a comment below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.